Across America, children were cheering. 73 seconds later, many of them would watch their teacher die live on television. Christa McAuliffe wasn't supposed to die in space. She was supposed to come home. January 28, 1986. A Tuesday morning that felt like Christmas and the 4th of July combined. Across America, school children crowded around television sets, wheeled into classrooms on metal carts. Parents adjusted their VCR timers. Christa's own students at Concord High School in New Hampshire pressed their faces close to the screen, bursting with pride that their teacher was about to make history. This wasn't just another shuttle launch. This was personal. This was one of us going up there. When NASA announced the Teacher in Space project in 1984, 11,000 teachers applied. 11,000 dreamers who saw the stars and thought, maybe me. Maybe I could show my students that space isn't just for astronauts with perfect vision and military backgrounds. Maybe I could prove that ordinary people belong up there too.
And the winner, the teacher who will be going into space, Christa McAuliffe. Is that you?
Christa McAuliffe was extraordinary in her ordinariness. A social studies teacher, a wife and a mother of 2. She taught American history to teenagers in New Hampshire, the same teenagers who sometimes fell asleep during lectures about the Constitution and daydreamed through discussions of westward expansion.
Christa teaches in Concord High School in Concord, New Hampshire. She teaches high school social studies. She's been teaching for 12 years.
When she filled out her application, she wrote something that would later break hearts to read.
She plans to keep a journal of her experiences in space. She said that, and here's the quote, "Just as the pioneer travelers of the Conestoga wagon days kept personal journeys, I, as a space traveler, would do the same."
She said she wanted to humanize the space age by giving a perspective from a non-astronaut. She wanted to keep a journal. She wanted to teach lessons from space. Simple lessons about ordinary things, made extraordinary by the fact that they were happening 200 miles above Earth. NASA chose her.
Given that this is such an extraordinary group, it was not easy to decide who gets to fly in the shuttle next January. Our final decision was based on who best met the criteria we laid out at the beginning: originality and creativity, dedication to the teaching profession, a high degree of community involvement, and an ability to communicate the spaceflight experience.
Really, there are thousands of teachers with the right stuff.
Out of 11,000, they chose the teacher from New Hampshire with the warm smile and the genuine excitement that radiated from every interview. America fell in love with her immediately. She wasn't trying to be a hero. She was trying to be a teacher. That's what made her so compelling. In the interviews before the launch, she talks about her lesson plans like they're the most important thing in the world. She was going to teach about chromatography, about effervescence, about Newton's laws, demonstrated in a place where Newton's laws created an entirely different reality. Her students made her a gift before she left, a small stuffed frog. She promised to take it with her. She promised to come back and tell them everything. The training was grueling. She experienced weightlessness in the Vomit Comet. She learned emergency procedures. She trained alongside professional astronauts who had dedicated their entire lives to this moment, and she kept up. She kept smiling. In every photograph from those months of preparation, you can see it. The pure joy. The disbelief that this was really happening. The knowledge that she was living a dream that most people don't even dare to dream. The night before launch, she called home. She talked to her kids. Her daughter was 9, and her son was 6. She told them she loved them. She told them she'd see them soon. Just a routine phone call. The kind of thing you do 1,000 times without thinking. The kind of thing that becomes unbearable to remember later. The morning of January 28th was brutally cold for Florida. Engineers raised concerns. The temperature had dropped to below freezing overnight. The O-rings, The rubber seals that kept burning rocket fuel from escaping the solid rocket boosters had never been tested in these conditions. There were warnings, there were discussions, there were people who knew something felt wrong, but there was also pressure. The shuttle had already been delayed multiple times. The media was watching, the world was watching, those school children were waiting. The crew boarded Challenger at 8:36 that morning. Christa McAuliffe climbed into the orbiter, wearing her blue flight suit, carrying everything she'd trained for, everything she'd promised her students. She took her seat, strapped in and waited. Across America, children watched. In Concord, New Hampshire, Christa's own students crowded together, their faces bright with excitement. They were about to watch their teacher go to space. They were about to be part of history.
T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Challenger lifted from the pad, trailing fire and steam into the cold morning sky. Inside Mission Control, voices stayed calm and professional. Flight Director Jay Green watched his screens. The trajectory looked normal. Everything looked normal. Challenger climbed. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. The shuttle rolled into position, turning to align with its orbital path. 40 seconds, 50 seconds, 60 seconds. The families watching from the viewing area saw Challenger rising, a beautiful bright flame against the winter blue sky. Christa's parents stood together, watching their daughter disappear into the heavens. Her husband held her children close. Look, there goes Mom. There she goes. 71 seconds into flight, a small puff of black smoke appeared on the right solid rocket booster. 72 seconds. The puff became a plume. A jet of flame broke through the failed O-ring seal, blooming like a horrific flower in the freezing air. 73 seconds. The flame from the ruptured booster struck Challenger's external fuel tank. The tank, filled with over 500,000 gallons of liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, ruptured. The explosion was instant. One moment, Challenger was there. A shuttle climbing toward orbit, a teacher riding toward the stars, 7 people alive and ascending. The next moment, there was only fire and smoke and chaos tearing across the sky. In Mission Control, the screens showed something impossible. The trajectory data fragmented. The voices stayed professional, even as their training collided with horror.
Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
Major malfunction. The words that meant everything had gone wrong. From the ground, spectators watched the white contrails split and diverge, curling away from each other like paths that should never have separated. The solid rocket boosters, free from the destroyed shuttle, spiraled wildly through the sky. Debris fell. Pieces of what had been Challenger scattered across the ocean below. In Concord, New Hampshire, in classrooms across America, children watched the screen as teachers scrambled to turn off televisions, to find words, to understand what they had just witnessed. Some of them didn't understand yet. Some of them thought it was supposed to look like that. Some of them knew immediately. Christa McAuliffe's students knew. They saw their teacher disappear into smoke and fire, and they knew. Take a moment and imagine something. Imagine being 9 years old, standing in that viewing area, holding your father's hand, watching your mother's spacecraft tear apart in the sky above you. Imagine being a parent, watching the shuttle you just waved goodbye to explode into fragments. Imagine being a student who made your teacher a stuffed frog and promised to see her when she got back. What words exist for that kind of grief? What do you say to a child who just watched their hero die? The crew cabin, the compartment where the 7 astronauts sat, separated from the explosion, largely intact. It fell for 2 minutes and 45 seconds. 2 minutes and 45 seconds of falling through the sky, spinning, tumbling toward the Atlantic Ocean below. NASA would later determine that at least some of the crew likely survived the initial breakup. They found evidence that emergency oxygen supplies had been manually activated. Someone had reached for them. Someone had tried. The cabin hit the ocean at over 200 miles per hour. No one could have survived the impact. 7 people died that day. Commander Dick Scobie, pilot Michael Smith, mission specialists Judith Resnick, Ellison Onizuka, and Ronald McNair, payload specialist Gregory Jarvis, and Christa McAuliffe, the teacher who wanted to humanize space. President Reagan was scheduled to give the State of the Union address that night. Instead, he spoke to a shattered nation. He spoke to the children who had watched. He said that the crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger had slipped the surly bonds of Earth to touch the face of God.
We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them this morning, as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye and slipped the surly bonds of Earth to touch the face of God.
Beautiful words. Necessary words. Words that couldn't bring anyone back. The investigation that followed revealed what engineers had warned about: the cold temperature, the O-rings, the pressure to launch, a decision made by people on the ground that killed 7 people in the sky. It wasn't an accident in the sense of something unknowable. It was a failure, a human failure, the kind that makes it hurt even more. NASA grounded the shuttle program for 2 years. They redesigned the solid rocket boosters. They rewrote their safety protocols. They promised it would never happen again. But Challenger had already happened. The students who watched their teacher die had already seen it. The families waiting for their loved ones to come home had already lost them. Christa's family established a foundation in her memory. Her mission, in a way, continued. Not the way she planned, not the way anyone wanted. But it continued. The stuffed frog her students made for her never made it to space. It was found in the wreckage, and it was later returned to her family. A small thing, a student's gift, a promise broken by forces beyond anyone's control. There's a memorial at Arlington National Cemetery bearing 7 names. Challenger's crew, honored among America's heroes. Christa McAuliffe's name carved in stone alongside the astronauts she trained with, flew with, and died with. But the real memorial is quieter. It's in every teacher who still shows their students videos of space launches and tells them to dream big. It's in every classroom where someone takes the time to make learning feel magical. It's in the students who grew up watching Challenger explode and still chose to study engineering, to work for NASA, to believe that the dream was worth the risk. Christa McAuliffe died doing something she believed in. She died trying to show children that space wasn't just for the chosen few, that ordinary people could do extraordinary things, that teachers belonged anywhere their students could imagine.
It's not often that a teacher is at a loss for words. I know my students wouldn't think so. I've made 9 wonderful friends over the last 2 weeks. And when that shuttle goes, there might be 1 body. But there's going to be 10 souls that I'm taking with me.
Engines throttling up, 3 engines now at 104%.
Challenger, go with throttle up. Challenger, go with throttle up.
1 minute 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.